With Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, VolQuest.com. Trying to do a little top 5 today. It's hard to find.
Tough.
Hard to find 5 in this Tennessee-South Carolina series. Even though they played every year since 1992, certainly not going to talk about the 92 Halloween game and what that meant for Tennessee. Not going to talk about Butch's loss over there that took Tennessee out of the SEC East. We'll try to find, let's try to find 4 that are memorable, positive games for Tennessee in this series. Really interesting. This series has been a lot of kind of low scoring, grind out.
Even before Will Muschamp got there.
Yeah,
you can't blame it all on him.
Yeah, a little, 20-10, 13-7, just kind of low scoring, sort of ugly game. But there has been some high moments for sure. So what do you want to start with? What's your 5th?
It wasn't a great game, but because of...
Or your 4th?
Fourth. It wasn't a great game, but T. Martin's performance when he set an NCAA record for consecutive completions. I think that probably has to stand out on this list when you look at him.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt. That's not, the game itself was not a great played game because South Carolina was not very good. But this is a T. Martin that was completing well below 50% of his passes. No real trust factor in him throwing the football early in the year. For him to turn the corner and set an end, it was, I don't want to say laughable because that's a knock on T, and I don't mean it for that way. But if you'd have said after the Florida game, T. Martin was going to set an NCAA record for 23 completions, you weren't sure if he was going to have 23 completions the rest of the season after the way he started off that year.
It was unlooked for, I think, to say the least.
Yeah, but Tennessee made a bunch of catches. They were wide open in the middle of the field, and T. Martin was dialed in and got hot and stayed hot the entire game. And certainly when you set an NCAA record, Rob, it's got to be on your list somewhere. My next one, I'm going to go with a Butch Jones win here in Neyland Stadium when he beat a top 10 South Carolina team on a Michael Pilardi field goal. I think 23-21 was the final in that game.
Marquez North's finest moment as of all.
And maybe his only moment as of all, with a couple of key catches in that game. Certainly a huge one-handed down the sideline. The thing that jumps out to me about that game, 2 things. One, Butch Jones' decision to punt, which drew boos from everybody because he played field position when the clock wasn't really in his favor. You weren't sure Tennessee was going to be able to drive the length of the field if they got it back in a short period of time. Worked out in his favor. The other thing I remember from that week is he was trying to establish the culture of his team, but he felt like his team was beat up and felt like they were physically out of gas. He took the pads off all week long. They never wore any pads in preparation for that game. Felt like afterwards it paid dividends for them because they were able to be physical enough because they had just come through that October gauntlet of games, much where Tennessee's at right now.
And that was a South Carolina team with some talent. Jadeveon Clowney, maybe he was saving himself a little bit for the NFL draft. I wouldn't argue that, but still, they were, depending on what poll you looked at, they were 9th or 10th. But it was a high water mark for Butch at that time, no doubt.
Certainly was. And then I think you go the next year for Butch Jones for the next one on this list as well. Maybe Dobbs' finest hour as a player.
I would have put that one number 1.
You think it's number 1?
I think so.
Okay, well, we'll debate number 1 momentarily. Let's talk about that Dobbs game, though. Tennessee down 14, rallied late, get it into overtime.
Ugly, cold, wet night.
Yeah, a little snow on the way over, if I'm not mistaken. It was a nasty cold night. Dobbs was Dobbs. Ran the ball, got hot throwing the football, but his legs were something that South Carolina had.
I remember Kroom with a big catch, and over Jason Kroom, now an NFL tight end, didn't do a whole lot here in his career. Made a big play that night, but that was Dobbs. I think when you really saw what Josh Dobbs could do as a college quarterback.
Yeah, it certainly was. Jalen Hurd with a big catch and run there, and then the end of that game in overtime, just total domination off the edge by Derek Barnett and Kurt Magid. They ended that game. I don't know that we've seen 2 defensive ends take over a game the way they did that series. Not in a long time.
I guess it was the year before when Tennessee beat Iowa in the Tax Slayer Bowl when Derek is when I really first started thinking Derek Barnett was going to be close to what he became. He dominated. Iowa had the kid that went 3rd or 5th in the draft to the Redskins. Still plays. His name escapes me. And Derek is a freshman, just annihilated. Just ate him up.
Right.
And you're like, whoa. And then, not that this was his only moment as a sophomore, but it really kind of reinforced that he was going to be a guy that could take over games.
Yeah, it certainly took over that. He and Magid did to end that game in overtime. One of the worst field goal attempts I've ever seen to try to tie that game up. It was never close for South Carolina. And then the final game that you look at, you can debate it whether it's number 2 or number 1, and that's the black jersey night. On Halloween when Lane Kiffin rolled out the black jerseys.
The most Lane Kiffin thing ever, probably, was it not?
Well, he was told not to do it. So which is Lane Kiffin asked, don't do it. And so he gets phrased to go to Sports Bell, who, by the way, is against. Tennessee's got a contract with Adidas. You're not even supposed to wear those. And he's got out these Sports Bell black jerseys, no names on the back of them. And he gets Eric Berry to present them to the team on Friday night. And once the team had seen them, there was no way Mike Hamilton was going to say, no, y'all can't wear them, because they all went crazy in the team meeting and everything else.
Was it the first play of the game or the first series? Austin Johnson right down the middle.
Well, remember that play, that was back when we could watch the whole practice, and Austin Johnson had spent that week dropping that pass. I mean, he had dropped that pass repeatedly in practice, had not run that play right. And I remember Lane Kiffin just coming to him on Wednesday or Thursday and going, son, I can't do any more than I am right now for you to have a touchdown. It is an automatic touchdown in the ball game on Saturday night. All you got to do is catch the ball. I'm giving you a touchdown. Do you want to catch the ball? And sure enough, Tennessee got that first opportunity across midfield. Coverage opened up just the way Lane said it would, down the middle of the field, wide open for a touchdown.
It was a memorable night, and one that still has divides Vol fans to this day.
Yep.
Black jerseys.
A lot of people are against it, but a lot of people say, you know what, they can wear pink tutus if we have fun nights like that. Montario Hardesty, his patent spin move early in that game as well, as Tennessee jumped out big. Maybe that's number 2 for you. Maybe that's number 1. Maybe it doesn't make your list because you're so anti-black jersey. I don't know. We'll talk about it on the General's Quarters. For Rob Lewis, I'm Brent Hubbs.